Hey all, welcome to the Win Again Clubroom. Super excited to have you here, and I'm super fired up to have a couple of amazing guests joining me. We've got Hanna Horenstein, who's going to jump on right now, right this second, and Marshall, who's also going to jump on in a second. And we're going to talk about a variety of things. There's Hanna. Say hi, Hanna, but demute yourself for a sec. I see that. There you go. Excellent. And then Marshall will jump on in a sec. He's got a little button that says join as speaker that he should be clicking on. There you go. Hey, Marshall.
How are we doing?
Fabulous. So a couple different things to start off with. Number one, we're going to talk a little bit about both of your backgrounds, just briefly to really set up the context here, and then jump into a conversation that really helps people understand a little bit more about the work that you both are doing and how people can get involved, that sort of thing. So first and foremost, I want to start off by thanking you for joining me today. Hanna, I want to start with you. You've spent, it sounds like, a little bit of time with this company now. It looks like about 20 years with the World Financial Group and Virtuity as it's become. That's obviously an indication of how you can really develop a long, successful career doing the work that you're doing. And, most importantly, as a career coach, I tell people all the time, it's absolutely essential and critical to do something that you love doing and not just mailing it in, right? I'll have you talk about that in a sec. And then Marshall Faulk, thanks for jumping on board. Yes, NFL Hall of Famer. Yes, you went to a small school somewhere in Southern California, San Diego State University. And then with a lousy view and frigid weather, just like I had. And then but growing up in New Orleans, you were used to the cold weather down there. And then from there, had a nice, long, successful career in the NFL. You've set 174 records, that kind of thing. But equally as exciting, made it into the Hall of Fame back in 2011. But what I want to talk to you about are two separate things. One is the experience you had going from a Hall of Fame career into those first several years out and into now what you're doing with Virtuity. So first things first, thanks for both being here. I appreciate it. First question is for Hanna. I'm going to start with you, actually. Way back when, what was it that got you interested in a company like Virtuity or like World Financial Partners? And then we'll talk about where it's going forward. But just curious to know, back then, what were you doing that you woke up one morning and said, these are the guys, these are the people?
Actually, a friend of mine started with the company, and I wanted to know more about what she was doing. So she invited me into like a seminar, basically, where it was about money and financial literacy. This is 20 years ago when no one was talking about financial literacy. I was in real estate. So I was all about, real estate sales or a mortgage business or whatever. But I'm sitting in this room and they're talking about compound interest and, how money works in retirement. And I fell asleep. Like, it was so boring that I fell asleep. But I woke up at some point and it kind of hit me that I was doing all the wrong things. I was deep in credit card debt. I had nothing saved. And it just kind of hit me. And I was like, wait a second, I'm totally broke. Like, and how am I ever going to fix this? Like, how am I ever going to build wealth, get wealthy? How's this ever going to change? Like, nobody was mentoring me. No one was helping me. So it was that reason that kind of piqued my interest to actually, come back and learn more and actually start my career in this industry. That was really how it started.
Well, but it's interesting. I think most of us almost stumble into what we end up doing. It's not always, gee, right out of college, you have a resume and you get a job somewhere and then you're off and running with a career. A lot of times it's networking just like this, where you meet other people and they say, hey, have you ever thought about blank? And you haven't. And then you're like, wow. And then you're off and running with that. And so Marshall, when you retired, you probably had a little bit of sort of time where you were trying to figure out, well, geez, what am I going to do next? I mean, yes, I can kind of sign autographs and play golf and kind of have fun for a little while. But at some point, I'm 30 something, I'm not 70 something. So what do I do next? What was that like when you were trying to figure out what was next?
Yeah, it was like, okay, man, no more football. Then you miss it. You start looking for purpose in life because you've lived this full life to where you were defined by either won or you lost. There was no, 80%, 90%, 75%. It was like lose. And so that's gone now. And you're living a life to where like average can be okay. You start looking at things financially and you want to make a difference and you want to help people. And then when you start looking inward, because that's what I started to do, I was like, where am I lacking? And mentally, I wanted to get sharper. I wanted to become more astute on things that I wasn't as sharp with. And, just like in football, you study your weaknesses. And I realized I was weak financially, not like with the money that I had, but knowing what to do with the money that I had. And I became fearful of losing it. And if you become fearful of losing it, guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose it. You are going to lose it. And so I wanted to make smart decisions. I wanted to make good decisions. I wanted to know what to do with it. So I had to level up and get a better education and and make some good decisions for me and my family. And that's when I met Hannah and another young lady named Bobby Montgomery. And I set out to better myself and to give my chance. And then that led into realizing exactly what this is and the avenue that it provides for not just me, but people who just want to know. You just want to know what we're not privy to. Like, why is it they're willing to teach sex education, but they don't want to tell you about money in school? Really? I mean, they're systematically wrong with that. So that's all I want to do, man. I just wanted to learn what's better.
Well, that's great because you're absolutely right. When you're playing a sport, doesn't matter, football, soccer, baseball, hockey, whatever it is, or water polo or tennis or something, your focus is on the game. Your focus is not necessarily on life. And you sometimes have people on your sort of quote team that are taking care of a lot of that stuff, financial advisors, etc. And suddenly when you stop playing, that support system is sort of not there. And you're suddenly like, wait a minute. How do I even know how much life insurance I should have? How do I know, how to find a new apartment in Phoenix? Like, how do I do these simple things? And that gets taken away or it just disappears. And so you're absolutely right. It's something where you really need to start getting your overall house in order when you retire. And a lot of times people don't necessarily see or hear that. So, those first few years out, what were some of the things, and did you bring in a certain type of person or people into your sort of quote support team and stuff, or did you just kind of clean out shop and start over again? What was that like?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think the most important, the best thing that I did was I understood that mentally I wasn't in the best place possible. And I think I started playing football when I was 5. And then one day it was over. I learned how to deal with this like right now. And I couldn't, a lot of my identity and everything that I was always working for in life was gone. So I needed to know who I was. I needed to now reshape the narrative. Marshall Faulk, the football player, was gone. And I was disturbed and interrupted as who I was. And how am I going to recreate that? And this is why you see a lot of guys struggle after the game when they're done. And so knowing that there was an issue and really had to find out, how do I separate from the game? How does Marshall Faulk, the father, or Marshall Faulk, the person, Marshall Faulk, the friend, Marshall Faulk, the everyday citizen, how does he survive compared to Marshall, guy that's in stadiums controlling whether 60,000 or 70,000 people stand up and cheer silence? That's euphoric. And when you don't have that anymore and it's gone, you need to know how to move forward. I mean, that's as addicting as any drug. If you don't and you're not prepared for it, it's going to be a struggle. And so that was the first thing that I did. I understood that there was a struggle. My ex-wife, the reason why we split, it was because, I was struggling and she was struggling with, and at that point in time, we didn't know that was the issue. And I'm sure a lot of marriages end because of that. He's looking at me like, I don't know you. I'm looking at me like, I don't know you. And both of us, we know something's wrong. And I'm just glad I got help before I did harm to myself or to my life.
Well,
beyond the money and beyond all of that stuff, taking care of yourself first is the first step. That was the first thing that I did. I moved on. And the business stuff, all of that just kind of took care of itself, because then I was able to think clearly, because I was able to see everything. I was able to see the path and everything that was out there for me. I was able to think like a normal person, not this elite person. I was able to put my world in a normal frame of things compared to as an elite athlete that I was.
Well, it's interesting. I think most people, when they think of a guy like a Marshall Faulk or a Derek Jeter or whoever it is who's been at the echelon of their sport, they say, oh, well, they've got it made in the shade. They're all set for life, that sort of thing. And yes, as you said, maybe that happens financially. Maybe there's other things that can line up, but there's also lots of other challenges. When the world knows that you've done well financially, suddenly you're a target of a lot of not so good people. There's a whole lot of things that really fall into place that need to happen for you to be sort of happy again and fulfilled. And then also discovering, well, what is your real identity? Are you Marshall, the football player? Or are you Marshall, the human, as you said, the citizen, the guy who's going to have a great rest of his life and career? Athletes are pretty strong and very good at things like sales and business development and being in front of an audience because they're used to that sort of thing. But this question is actually going to shift it towards Hanna. Hanna, in your opinion, because I know what Marshall's opinion is on this, what do you think can make an athlete very good at what the work you're doing?
I think the number one thing is really confidence, knowing how to win.
Mm-hmm.
That's two things, but if you know how to win, if you know how to be a champion, if you know how to set goals and hit them, then you could do anything. I think the number one thing that I hear people say to me in life is, once they hit that adulthood time, mm-hmm. they stop setting goals and they kind of settle into some life that they don't, really recognize themselves anymore from like when they were a kid and they were having fun and wanting stuff out of life. So I think as an athlete, which I've never been one, by the way, but I've recognized this like just enthusiasm and confidence and excitement that I think if you don't play sports, you probably don't have that. I got that in this business because our business model is very similar to sports, but I didn't get that till I was in my 20s. So when you've grown up with sports and that's been your whole life, I think that's kind of your energy. And so I think getting into a business like this, you can just excel fast because you already have that dynamic.
In terms of the work that you're doing, what are some of the things that make an athlete be pretty successful doing this stuff?
The drive, okay. Determination, the fact that we failed a lot. A lot of people, here's the reality, Mark. I'm going to tell you this. I've failed so much that I'm not afraid of failure. Most people are so afraid of failure that they quit before they fail, so they don't even get the experience of learning what failing is all about. So the lessons that you learn in failing, you don't get to learn it, and you quit. So therefore, you've robbed yourself of the value of the lesson. There's so much. There's so much in failing that you learn, and it makes you better for the next time that you get put into that, to have that experience. So, but if you quit before you fail, then you're going to come up to that same place, and you're going to feel like, okay, I've been here before. but I quit, so I don't know what's coming. If the time got hard, if you just saw it through, then you know what that tough time, you've been down that road before. And so
Well,
now you can give advice to people coming behind you, like, hey, I've been here before. It's not as bad as you think.
well, look, every athlete, doesn't matter what sport you play, has that grit, has that ability to get up and dust themselves off and keep going. And they, as you were saying earlier, there was win and loss. There was no 60-40. It's like 100%, 0%, right? But
Yeah.
it's very similar in business where, if you quote lose, if you lose a deal, lose any sort of business, you've got to just kind of brush it off and get back on the horse again, right? And that sort of thing. First, I'm going to ask Hanna to do, if it's possible, to give the short sort of 1-minute blurb on a little bit on what Virtuity is and how it's sort of organized and set up and the type of products that are being sold, and then we'll shift to Marshall for a sec.
Sure. So basically, we're a platform that is financial literacy. So when someone joins our platform, that's really the first thing that they get is education. We take them through a process of learning about their own financial status. What have they saved up to this point? Like you mentioned, insurance and just financial goals that they have. If they're on track to hitting those, and we help make those corrections for them first. And then also in terms of creating a business, some people, they have a job, some people may own other businesses, but they're maybe not making enough money to be able to save enough to reach their goals. So our business model is extremely profitable. We help them set up an income stream. For some people, it could be part-time in addition to what they're already doing. And for some people, they want to build an entire business, like what Marshall and I are doing, and they want to open up offices all over the country. So it's a platform where, really sky's the limit, but, we allow people to start where they feel comfortable. Most important is that they get educated. We want to educate as many people as possible.
That's awesome. And so speaking of that, give me a sense of, well, if I wanted to jump on board, let's say I wanted to work for and with Marshall, what are some of the steps involved, and what am I actually going to be doing?
Great question. So the first step is really like basically joining a mentorship program. You're going to be in training classes. You're going to be getting your license, and you're going to do what's called field training, where it's kind of like, imagine the police ride along program where you're going with someone, and we're doing all of this by Zoom now, so it's kind of cool. But you're actually getting to sit down virtually with people and, see what people have been doing up to this point and what they need to be doing. And then we make these corrections together. And once you see this happen 5 or 10 times, what you realize is that most people are not doing the right things. They're not saving enough money. They don't understand where to put their money. They don't have a good idea about taxation or insurance or any of these, basic things, estate planning. So once you see this over and over again, and you're like, this is really simple, I could do this too. You're learning these presentations, you're getting your license, and it's a transference of knowledge. So what Marshall would be doing is he's essentially transferring his ability to present products, present services to clients. And once you're licensed and you can do the same, now you're able to help these clients as well and build your own business in that process.
And look, with everything else, and Marshall, I know I'll ask you this in a second, but I used to be involved 100 years ago in sales, and one of the first jobs I did out of school, and I know you're all going to be jealous when you hear this, but I was selling photocopiers door to door in Manhattan, which was one of the worst jobs in history. But basically, but it taught me how to, the whole grit and how to succeed and how to overcome objections, that sort of thing. What's interesting is that there's always going to be some people that don't necessarily succeed and others that are wildly successful. So I'm sure that's the same in your company and so forth, but lots of people do really, really well. So Marshall, tell me about, some of the things that if you were to hire somebody to join your team, what are some of the qualities that you would like to look for?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't hire them. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
That's the beauty to what we do is we don't give out jobs. We offer opportunities to own your own business, and that's what we do. We bring you in, we educate you, and we provide financial services to help you and your family first. And then with that, once we show you what the level of education you have, how to raise that up, how to use the financial services that we have, we then show you how to use that to generate another stream of income. And that encompasses running your own business. Now, we stand behind you and with you and show you how to operate that business until you can run that business on your own. But we don't give you a job. We don't hire. We don't do any of that. We show you how to operate your own business. That's what we do. So entrepreneurship is something that we are 100% behind, and we really promote over here. We teach entrepreneur. We don't want employee mindset. If you want a job, you got to go to Merrill Lynch, Charles Schwab. You got to go to any one of those, Goldman Sachs. They'll give you jobs. We want you to come here, and we want to build you a business that you can grow, and you work when you want to. You own your time, you own your own, and you grow it as big as you want, and do what you want when you want with it, how you want with it.
So when you're saying, they wouldn't be working for you, they would be sort of, but that you would be with you, and you'd be mentoring them and training them and showing them sort of the ropes and that sort of thing. Got it. Are you ruthless, or are you pretty good guy to work with?
I'm hardcore. And when ruthless is, if honesty is ruthless, then yes, I'm ruthless. Yes, if you're lazy and you don't put the effort in, yes, I'm ruthless. If calling you out is, I'm honest. I am brutally honest.
That's all good. I mean, look, at the end of the day, and look, I'm a New York City guy, and in New York City, we call it like it is. There's no BS and there's no beating around the bush. It's all about performance, and it's all about, I don't know, like there's no need to have nuance and all this fuzzy stuff. It's just like, look, let's just get it done. And I think that if somebody wanted to be working with you, it's the same sort of thing where they'll be able to benefit from that athletic mindset, from your perspective, that in order to succeed, you've got to put in the training, you got to put in the effort, but the results will happen if you do that.
That's it.
Makes sense? Piece of cake.
That's it.
So what I wanted to do is, I know there's going to be 2 or 3 or 4 people at minimum who want to really talk to you a little bit about, to talk to you both about what it's like to be at Virtuity and how they might be able to get involved. So what we're going to do is, in a couple minutes, we're going to go back to the chatting at the tables. And if you can both hang out for a little bit and speak to them, that'd be great. What we'll do is, I think what I'd like to do is have you both sit at, there's going to be a center table with 8 people there. There's an 8 top. So if you can jump over to that one when we're done and just start chatting with people if they have questions about, how they can get involved, that'd be great. Okay. Secondly is, hopefully everybody knows by now, this is a really incredible platform. It's so easy to use. And when you go back to the tables, you'll be able to bounce around. You can also I will make sure to, if any of you want to connect with either Hanna or Marshall separately off the grid, I'll be happy to connect you guys certainly with that. And then lastly, in the upper left of your screen, there's a banner of Virtuity. If you click on that, just click on that. When you see it, it opens up a window that allows you to connect to the website so you can learn a lot more about the company and all that sort of thing. So once again, thanks for being in the club room. This is just one of many events that if you become a member of the Academy, you have access to this platform and access to a lot of great people, including both Hanna and Marshall. So thanks to both of you for being with us today. We'll jump back now. Thanks for being on board, guys, and full speed ahead. Thanks again.
All righty.
Yeah.